Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we are here with the top 100 soccer items for the week on PWCC. As always, we go through it top to bottom, see what's going on. Spoiler, pretty good week, I would say, in terms of sales, and, somewhat optimistic leading to the board in the background, which is weird. Would have thought, national week, everyone's busy, lots of stuff going on, probably a quiet auction. Not the case, so excited to get into it, and let's do that. As always, starting from the bottom, this week, $150 for the minimum price, basically, to get into this, which is on the lower end, I guess, of what we've seen, but nothing too crazy, and you'd presume most people don't want to, sell their best items or items they desire too much on the week of the National, probably not the best, but as we'd see, and as we will see, not too bad at all. So we'll start with the Bobby Charlton PSA 2. Wanted to look at this just because, PSA 2, pretty, low grade, transacted frequently. This goes for $144. The last one was May 28th, which was the more rare version with the lack of the Planet Limited on the top. And yeah, that went for the same price. So presumably this is a pretty good sale. And even looking back, basically same price as a fixed price last year, same price as an auction last year. So that is smack dab on what it's been for over a year now, which is pretty consistent. And, in the world of soccer items going down endlessly, to see that right about where it's been, not too bad at all. Actually, I think I even looked in the all-time high. Yeah, the all-time high was 200 maybe. So honestly, hasn't done that bad at all. A couple other Brazilians in the row, but nothing I want to talk too much on. I do like the 99 look right there. Another R9 next to a Thierry Henry 2022 auto. I'm not too big of a fan, and, typically we don't talk too much about sticker autos because or just post-playing career autos in general. I don't think they have the relevancy that maybe people think they should, or that the manufacturers think they should. I don't really care too much. This Nilton Santos PSA 2 going for $170. Not too bad when Grinches in the same set, same grades typically do $750 to $1,500. Grinch being much bigger of a name, but still, prominent Brazilian right there with Santos. First of the few 101s we'll see from the NT set, David Silva going for $170. This was a crazy sale, 8.5 of a second-year Beckenbauer going for $174. I wanted to see that this was just a one-off, and it was. I don't know if someone was getting comps based off of the auto version of these that have been popping up. But yeah, I don't know. A PSA 8 of this card earlier this month went for $46 on auction. This SGC 8.5 does $174, which is just insane. No clue what happened there, but interesting nonetheless. Next to that, a numbered Messi from 2019 Obsidian. Then in the next show, we have a Koenig PSA 6 of Zamora and Huffman. Really nice looking one there. Always love the colors on the Koenigs. Next to that, a Neymar sticker. This is also a player-worn Ronaldo. I'm personally, and maybe I'll start taking a firmer stance on this. I'm not that big of a player pouch guy. At this point, it's overblown how much people hate player-worn, but this is player-worn. It's just a player-worn patch for $200. Honestly, I'd just rather get a numbered card at that point. Doesn't add much for me, but to each their own. In this row, some odds and ends. Zidane, PSA 10, this goes for $190. There was also a PSA 10 that went for like $130 in this auction that we didn't see, so that sort of averages out a little bit. This seemed like a high sale. I looked at the sales history. Actually ended up being a low sale. 1959 Hocus Pocus Puskás in a CSG 8. Always like looking at what CSG's grading. Sometimes you'll find a little bit more off-the-wall type of stuff in CSG slabs, which I think is good. It widens the focus. Not to say that this is, but we'll see more like it later. CSG could be interesting for soccer vintage. I've noticed people take to it pretty well. They seem to be, more lax in terms of what they grade, and they'll like era date certain ones where it's not a certain year, it's just a certain era, and that gives them a little bit more leeway. Here we have an Alcantara SGC 3.5 going for $200 from 1920. Above that, 2004 Lionel Messi PSA 5. This goes for $200. Pretty much in line. I don't know if I pulled that up. I did. So $200 here. Went for $200 on a fixed price. I think this is always, interesting to see, and I've been seeing it a lot more lately, where auction prices are basically going near what fixed prices we're going for, or where some have gone for lately, and I think that that's an interesting thing to notice, because it hasn't been like that for quite a while. Nonetheless, not like a crazy price, but $200 for what is I would say, low-grade Messi rookie is still pretty good. 2018 De Ligt Sapphire going for $204 in a PSA 10. Youngman Sun sticker, we continue moving. This one I thought was really good too. I didn't expect to see a 4 going higher, but it is the blue version. People seem to like the blue a little bit better than the white. Thus, it gets a bit of a premium in a lower grade. We then have a 96 Zidane PSA 8, which is a pretty good price for a PSA 8. It is pop 1 of 1 and higher, and from a cert that's quite a while ago, if I am reading that right. Rivera 1968 Panini there for $210. We've seen some pretty decent sales for him lately in the last few auctions. This row we have a Kaboom, a Manga. Personally, I'm not too big on either of them. But we do have Pulisic, so I always love seeing some USMNT. Gavi right there, and then the 1962 Eusebio. Given the grade price, PSA Pop 1 of 2, I know very little about this, but I would say that it's lesser preferred because most early Eusebio stuff does crazy numbers. We'll see one later in the auction that did. I think it's a nice picture, but the back is just like another player, and it's sort of an odd shape with this. Interested if anyone has more information on that. Interested if more people have information on that. I'm not too big into Eusebio, so I haven't dived fully in, but the Xavi Modric red from 2014 goes for, what was that, 200? Yeah, 215, 216. Before this, it actually did sell for 250. I think that's the same one, or at least same grade, on fixed price for 250 a little over a year ago. So, I mean, to go from fixed price a year ago to auction now and be able to get, 85% of what you had, maybe a little higher. I mean, that's not bad at all. 1922 Alcantara, another one here. With him, just seems like so much. I mean, I don't know what it is. It feels like there's a ton of Spanish stuff on these auctions lately. Not to say that they're all doing high numbers, because I mean, only the select couple, him and Zamora for the most part, typically are on these lists. But just a lot of different releases, so at least for me, as someone that doesn't know a ton, it's a lot to sort of pick through. I do like the look of them, though. Spain 1920s definitely has its own unique nature. Then we have a Kropon Cruyff in a PSA 9. No comps on this, pop 1 of 1, none higher. Not even many comps on the PSA graded in general. Goes for $222. We have a Pele 1958, Brazil team, but with Pele in it. 1.5 going for $200. A Baggio sticker as well. In this row, a couple more 1 of 1s from the NT set that we saw earlier. So here, a Sanchez and a Raheem Sterling next to a Messi net finders. I want to take a look at the net finders just because it's not something that we see all the time on these, so I wanted to at least see what it does. $250 for this one. Last auction was $250 as well. Been bouncing around basically there for quite a while. Was closer, I guess, to $400 at times last year, but generally speaking, in the range of where it's been, so nothing too crazy. A couple more modern inserts. It seems pretty modern insert heavy this auction, at least from what I'm seeing. We have a Kaboom, we have a Renaissance, we also have a 1966 Pele and a 6 going for $264. Really like the look of Renaissance. I don't know if it catches on or really sticks, but personally I always love the stained glass nature. Another modern insert there with the Color Blast Jamie Vardy next to a Pele in action from 1958, along with a 65 Franz Beckenbauer Perfetti Candy. This is actually not rookie year. It is, I think, 1967, could be 66, but I believe 67. Nonetheless, not rookie. Goes for $288, which is a pretty good price, and maybe presumes that it's a rookie. I'm not quite certain. But yeah, this is one that's been changed as of late and no longer should carry that rookie premium, though I do think it's a great-looking sticker nonetheless. Speaking of great-looking cards/stickers, a 2017 Silver Prism Lionel Messi field level goes for $310. Feels pretty good. I mean, I'm not going to look at comps because comps aren't everything, right? When it comes to, a silver Messi and a PSA 10 going for $300, generally that feels pretty good. Obviously, there are some exceptions like a 2014 Prism that would dwarf that, but, Messi silvers don't do typically really, really good numbers. So $300 for a PSA 10 from, what is an important select, field level, I guess. But at the end of the day, he has one in 2016. It's vertical. He has some in later years. So it's not, some one-off thing. And still pulls a pretty decent price, which is impressive, at least to me. Dennis Bergkamp on card 2022. And then a Messi patch there from Select. In this row, we have a Luka Modric 2008 PSA 10. I did look that up just because I was intrigued. People always say this is really high pop. You don't want them. They're going to go down in price. And yeah, $324 up from the last fixed price sale, up from the other last fixed price sale, up from $150, $150, $340. This is like this is as high as it's been doing lately, and on auction. And when we go back to all-time highs, there's almost nothing higher than this, which is pretty impressive, I would say, especially on an auction PWCC weekly. It's sort of just a one-off. I guess one did go for $1,000 on best offer apparently, but before that, $750, $500. it's, you know, a top 5, top 10 sale for that sticker all time, which you wouldn't have expected, at least I wouldn't have. Then we have a Franz Binder Koenig, PSA 6, pretty good grade, also good player for the era, 324 there. The most common of the Koenig backs, so there's no extreme rarity in that regard, but I mean, in general, they're not easy to find, especially in high grade, as you can see, pop 1 of 2, none higher, so beggars cannot be choosers. Lewandowski 2021 Kaboom going for 336. We then have a PSA 9 Messi Ronaldo. Want to take a look at this? So this one goes for 336. Last auction, actually last night on eBay, went for 565, which just seems weird to me. That there would be a 50% almost difference between the two is pretty nuts. But yeah, this seems a little bit closer to where it should be. The last one went for 381, but then there was one for 600. So I don't know. Prism 2014 has a lot of weird sales where, you know, things go higher or lower than maybe you think they would, and so I would just always approach with caution and, you know, go for the lower comp if you're buying. Beyond that, we have a Cadles 1904 WC Athersmith going for 336 there. I believe we'll see more Cadles here in a few, so keep your eye out. Next row, we have a Messi out of 50. Seems sort of like a random gold for Messi that does 350 there. I guess it's a 10, which brings up the value and probably makes that happen. Pop 1 of 13, none higher, of course. Next to that, we have a Johan Cruyff 1973. Pop 1 of 3, none higher for a PSA 8 there. 350 in total for the World Cup sticker for Cruyff. And then this one I thought was kind of high. SGC 1.5 of Beckenbauer does 360. And I mean, before this, the last one with a MK designation did 120. This one did a 130. The one before that did, I mean, what do we have? 200, 140. So, I mean, this seems like a really good sale. I will say the back looks really nice. Typically, you know, PSA has been grading very weird, where if there is some paper loss on the back, they might not even care, and they'll just grade it whatever it looks like. While with SGC here, I mean, you can tell there's some paper loss right there. There's some, you know, text that's definitely missing color because it's been removed, presumably. Down at the bottom, you can see some paper loss and all that sort of stuff. So SGC does a really good job here, spots that, gives it a 1.5, even though it looks much better. And so maybe, you know, maybe the person buying it just says, hey, this is a clean 1.5, I want it. I also think maybe there's a chance you crack this, send it to PSA, see if you get a 6, and maybe you flip it big. I don't know. So I don't know if people are, you know, paying the premium here because they know it's clean and it looks nice, or because maybe they think there's crack and resub potential. Never would have thought I'd say that there could be crack and resub potential from a, you know, I guess in terms of authenticity of a grade from SGC to PSA, but I think in that case it makes sense. In this row, 2020 Mo Salah, Color Blast, next to a Termo Di Stefano from 1953, PSA 6, so decent grade, does 384 there. Typically, you know, a little under 500 is where they've been in my mind for that grade. 1970 Pele, PSA 8 goes for 420 in a old PSA slab. Next row, and this will sort of kick off again some more of the pre-war that we've seen. This is another WC Athersmith here from the JF and Bell, 3 Nuns. 3 Nuns, pretty big set in vintage, and you know, one of the big names, at least, that comes to mind for me as someone that, you know, doesn't really delve too into the weeds in that regard. We have a 1954 Puskás here, a UNC German issue in a 5.5 CSG. Again, sort of talking about with, you know, what I said earlier about CSG, you know, more willing to grade and sort of has some more off-the-wall stuff, which is always fun. 2020 Aguero Color Blast right there. Next row, nothing much to talk about with the Hollands, but I did want to check out the Maradona just to see if anything like that has sold. The only thing we have to go off of is a PSA 7 that sold for 138, so an 8 doing almost 3 times a 7 seems pretty strong for that sale there. Pop 1 of 2. Next row, Lionel Messi, SGC 8 does near 500, along with a Zidane 1998 foil sticker. We also have a David Piola here. It says CSG 1, but I mean, it says authentic, at least from what I'm seeing. Goes for 500. You know, doesn't look too bad, I would say, for being authentic. Obviously, you do have the staining on the back and whatnot, but generally speaking, I think that looks pretty good. In this row, a couple Thierry Henry autos, along with a Pele stamp, all going for near 500. Above that, a couple Lionel Messi's. This does 630. I look back at sales for this. This is about smack dab where it's been, lingering between 500 and 1,000 for a couple years now. You know, the PSA 10 Messi's from almost every year sell. They do. PSA 10 Messi isn't easy, especially for some of the earlier stuff, and isn't going to be, plentiful. So I think people are willing to pay up for it, especially on, sort of PWCC auction where people are just scrolling looking for something to buy. This is sort of cool. Campio PSA 8 goes for $660. This felt strong. Typically I expect these to do $500, anywhere from, 4 to 6 maybe. Does $660. It is Campio, so it has that going for it. But then we have another 3 nuns going for $690. A Pele PSA 2 from 1969, I guess 2.5. To be fair, top 15%, which I don't know what that means again. But I mean, it looks pretty good. I love the colors on this Pele. Back doesn't look too bad at all. Generally speaking, pretty decent sale, you would say. $720 for a later year Pele, not in high grade, but still a good one nonetheless. Then we have a Kylian Mbappe laser prism next to a Duncan Edwards PSA 7. This is why I like to point out often, see the cert number 73 million. I usually point out when it's new, if it's something that seems really high grade. Part of the reason was this went last week in a PSA 6, and the PSA 6 did 500 last week. And then, turn around this week, there's a 7, and it only does, 50% more than the 6. Typically, I'd expect more of a premium, so that's what you always want to look out for. If you're someone that maybe is in the market for one of these, that you're looking for it, always look to the next PWCC auction and see if there's something that's going to, come in over the top and be better. Because, PWCC offers that. You can look at next week's auction, so always do that if you are, in the market for, something that doesn't come out often and seems to be high grade, because maybe there are more, and you might have an opportunity. Mbappe Kaboom up here at $780, next to a Jude Bellingham Topps Museum Auto. I think it's important from time to time to bring a reality check on prospects. I mean, Jude just has so many rookie autos, if he didn't have as many, if there was, some more conciseness to what people collected of Jude or what there was to collect, I could understand. But Jude has so many rookie autos that this sort of just napkin patch and an SGC 9 doesn't speak to me. Obviously speaks to someone. 800, I think that's just a bit pricey. I'm not even an Mbappe Kaboom guy, but, I think you could convince me into that instead of the Jude. And then we have a PSA 8 Messi Monday Chromo here going for $900. There's actually another one in the next show for $930. I looked at comps, and basically over the last 6 months, up 14%, over the last 3, up 22%, over the last year, up 17%. When we go out to all time, down a little bit, but I think this is where it's interesting to talk about, right? In terms of the lowest sale post World Cup, it was around 500 to 550, and now we're at, 915. It's almost double from the low that we've seen, which is pretty impressive to me, especially, when you look at the last, 3 months, from the bottom here at 575, 1 sale up, 2 sales up, another even sale, 3 sales up, 4 sales up, and there's a 5th sale up here. So, 5 straight sales going up seems pretty indisputable, but obviously you never really know. I will say, though, even with the boost that it's been getting, I sort of see why. Personally, when you look at this row and what Messi Monday Chromo PSA 8 is compared to, the market's saying it's the same as a Maldini Calciatore in terms of value, and it's saying it's the same as the Kylian Mbappe PSA 10 Silver Prism in terms of value. And to me, I think the Messi's, much more valuable to me at least. Monday Chromo, big brand, at least for, Spain. And then you have Messi on it, best player ever, at least in my book, a rookie, a notable rookie at that, one of the top few rookies I would imagine in most people's mind for Messi. And so would I rather have this or a Maldini, which to be fair, if you want a Maldini rookie, this isn't even the one you want. There's a couple others I'd rather have. And so the same thing sort of exists, right? This isn't the ideal Messi rookie, but it's a good Messi rookie, right? This isn't the ideal Maldini rookie, but it's a good Maldini rookie. And so basically I'm asking, would I rather have Messi or Maldini, which is easy. I'd rather have Messi. Same thing goes for Mbappe. Sure, Silver Prism PSA 10. It was all the craze at one point, but it's a Silver Prism, right? There's colored, there's so many other options. There's Topps Chrome, it's Mbappe, still a prospect. I still want the Messi, right? So even with it being up, if you put it in this realm, I still pick it. And I think that that's maybe why it's showing some strength despite the times we're in. Something important to think about, all-time pricing. No one ever talks about this time, right? In 2020, there was the sort of Prism boom that happened in the summer and this boom of soccer, right? But then there was this cold winter where things went from 1,000 to 500. They halved. No one ever talks about that because immediately after we go back to the moon, right? And I think that that's a good spot to compare to, because that spot that we were in then sort of felt like what we were in here, right? And so I think the low then was near 500. The low here was, near 600, and it seems to be working its way back up. So I think that that's sort of maybe a sign of where the floor was, and again, where the floor is now. I do think, obviously, the World Cup helped, so I do think maybe the floor could have been a bit lower, but generally speaking, strong signs there from the Messi Monday Chromo market, and personally, again, when you put it in this realm, I think it's deserved. Moving a little bit higher, though, to the 1,000 and above. Here we have a Eusebio yellow name. Did take a peek at this just to see, and basically we have there a $1,000 sale. Prior was $1,720 on a best offer in February, but as you can see in a PSA 2, these haven't sold very often. All-time high being near 2,000, the lowest ever being, you can't see it at the bottom, but it is 130 back in 2019. So we're somewhere between the all-time high and the lows of 2019. We're basically smack dab in the middle on that one. The yellow name Eusebio is the preferred. There's a blue that's more common, but you can also get the Velita back. So that is something to note as well. PWCC Eye Appeal does 1,000 there. Next to that, we have a Kevin Keegan, sort of one of the under talked about Ballon d'Or winners. $1,000 for his rookie in a 9. He does have a few different rookies that you can pick and choose from. PSA 9, at least from PWCC's word, is a pop 1 of 1. If you're a buyer typically on this site, I would double check that, but at least for the purposes here, we'll assume that's correct. Then we have the 1904 Cadel cigarette. This is Ernest Needham, one of the more relevant players from the era in a pretty relevant set as well. Collectively leads us to a little bit over $1,000. I do think we'll see some more here in a bit, but there was a barrage of sales from that set last night, so that was fun to see. Always interested in sort of what the pre-war does, because it's sort of this thing that happens in the nooks and crannies of the hobby where you don't really see it, and so to see it on PWCC out in the open is fun for me, at least. Here, I have no clue what happened. So there's a PSA 4 Deportivo right next to a PSA 6 Deportivo, and I cannot tell you why that is. So I understand by the card, not the grade, but I mean, even when I look at them, the white edge right there, the white right there, I don't know. I mean, I'd prefer this. The cut looks better. They're all hand cut, so you could cut it again. I don't understand. Maybe there's something I'm missing. Maybe on this one there's clearly some sort of something that should be caught that wasn't. I don't know. But yeah, that just sort of baffled me. The Deportivo, we'll talk about that more here in a second. I'll sort of go in on it, but we'll wait until we see a higher priced one here in a bit. Then we have a 2018 PSA 9 gold of the Argentine squad, or I guess the all-time Argentine squad, kind of. Dybala, Maradona, Kempes, and Batistuta, the 4 Argentinians that come to mind when I think of soccer in their country, of course. Moving on, 2004 PSA 9 for this Messi Campeón. Looking at the sales here, we have 1740 here. Next to the same 2 fixed prices, at 1800 and 1800. Pretty impressive to see auction prices again go near fixed. And post World Cup, this did dip down to $1,250 at a time, and $1,500 and $1,290. So compared to that, again, up 30-40% ish from the bottoms that we were seeing. Then we have an Immaculate Ronaldo. This is a numbered out of 7 patch. I did think, at first I was like, wow, that's a pretty impressive patch. I guess I can see why I went for 1800. Again, it's player worn. You can't see it in there, and we could go in, but it's player worn, and for that reason, I don't see it. I really don't. I know it has, Real Madrid logos, and that's cool, but to me, patches, even game-worn patches, are a little overrated. I mean, at the end of the day, the authentication behind a lot of these jerseys are very poor, and so the companies just cut them up and say they're match worn, and there's this level of trust that you have to put into that I don't think is worth it in the first place. But then to pay near $2,000 for what is essentially a numbered out of 7 patch, I struggle with this. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe we're missing something. I just don't know. Let me know. I'm interested. Beyond that, a 2018 Immaculate Pele and Neymar. Pretty nice looking for a sticker auto. They both have basically their whole signature on there, which is great. Does $1,800. Pretty good price. Above that, we have 3 3 greats of the game. So here we have a Geo Smith Cadles here in a 4 going for 2,700. Mighty fine price there. And then a Dixie Dean going for 2,200 in a PSA 6 from the Koenig set. This is, again, the more common back, the Nil Princess Ramona. And, yeah, I mean, you know, basically one of the more notable players from pre-war, and getting him in one of the biggest sets in a big grade is just going to get a big number, and that's exactly what it did. So, makes sense. All of that next to what is a printed black 1/1 Vinicius going for 2K. So, you know, pick which one you want. Football heritage or, you know, future football heritage, I guess. To each of their own. You know, I'll let you guys decide. And then we get into the top 6 here. So first is a Steven Bloomer from 1902. This is the 3-Nun set yet again. This is authentic evidence of trimming. I mean, generally looks pretty good. Obviously, you know, trimming, you gotta weigh that in. Personally, trimming's definitely weird, because when it's done with the purposeful intent of trying to, you know, deceive and fool people, I think that's when it's bad. But if it says it right on the card, you know, it's right out there for all to see, I think that that's a great spot to be in, because then you can collect at what is a massive discount. And so presumably, had this not had trimming, this would have done, you know, much better. Nonetheless, SGC Pop 1/1 just one higher. So generally speaking, you know, it's one of those things where if you see it, you want it, you're going to have to get it. And yeah, big number there, 2,760. I did look back at the Cadles sets in general. So we did see the, you know, highest sale for Cadles, at least from, you know, public auctions. And then we go to 3-Nuns as well, and the same exists there, 2,760. Dwarfs anything we've seen before. I did find this one fun from 2018. There's a Fatty Folk PSA 6 that sold for 200. That's sort of a pretty relevant name for pre-war UK. So 204 then, and obviously, I mean, Bloomer, a little bit bigger of a name, does 2,760 now in an authentic. So, you know, absolutely huge to see and fun to be able to break down here. Again, next to that, you could pick, you know, absolute rarity in terms of football heritage, or 1/1 Jade Holland, you know. For each to decide, that is purely up to you. And honestly, if you pick this, you get to go home with another $500. So pretty interesting decision. We'll move to the Pele Queagle. This does 6,300 and PSA 4. This is obviously taking a hit. We'll close through some here, but yeah, this has been pretty rough. 63, actually up from the last sale of 54, 63, and then 19, 29, 21, and 34,000. So at one point, this was the Pele, and honestly, if this went back further, you would see some good sales prior to soccer even being a real, you know, big collectible thing. So, I mean, honestly, just tough to see. But at the same time, I don't know when it stops, to be honest. I will say I do think that it's an amazing looking Pele, though, despite it losing that rookie sort of appeal. I mean, it says 58, 59 here, so people believed it to be 50. I think now it's believed to be 60. So if it's that far back, I'd say this is more akin to the Monty Gum Cruyff to me. Like, you know, people pay a lot for the Monty Gum Cruyff compared to his rookies because the Monty Gum looks so good and it's sort of a card. This doesn't have, you know, as much of, I guess, the card-like features, but I think that this looks so good that you could convince me that even though it's second, third year, that it's still a great Pele. And I believe that because I think of it that way. That could be me being biased because back in the day, whenever I first got into soccer, this was the Pele, so maybe I sort of aspired to that, but I do think it looks amazing. And 6,300 still is nothing to scoff at by any means. And then finally, the top 3 here, we have an R9. This is the Deportivo we saw earlier in a PSA 8. This one does 7,800. It was sold a month ago for 8,700, the same exact one. So I always sort of, you know, get a little weary when that happens because that means someone out there is shilling it without the intent of buying, or, you know, I guess someone maybe wasn't able to make the payment happen, but presumably, you know, there is some shilling going on. And what I will say is the Deportivo, I've been having this feeling, but this confirmed it even more. I've been seeing it so much, and that does scare me when they're shilling and you also see something happen, like to go to auction a lot, because at that point, it seems like people have a lot to sell and they want to keep the price high to keep getting money out of it. And so just looking here, I mean, this week we had 3. We had a PSA 8 go, a 6 go, a 4 go. Last week we had a 3, a 3. The week before we had an 8. The week before we had a 7. The week before we had a 5, an 8. You know, the week before we had a 3, a 4. You know, like every week there's at least 2 or 3 of these that are selling. They're sometimes both in high grade, sometimes one in high grade, sometimes one in high, one in low, sometimes a couple in low, but there's a lot, right? And I wanted to compare to the Voetbal, just because that's another Ronaldo that comes to my mind when I think of Ronaldo rookies and, sort of their iconic nature. And this one, I mean, look, last sale, July 14th. Last sale before that, May 11th. Last sale, April. So when we look at PSA graded this year, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just 6, I think. 7. We'll say 7. It's either 6 or 7. And just for the purposes of the video, we'll go back to the Deportivo. So 6 or 7 to sell this year from the Voetbal. While, I mean, look, like 7 sales this month for the Deportivo. Probably another 7 last month. In May, it looks like another 5 to 6. April looks like another 5. March looks like a couple. February, couple. January, 4, 5. And it seems like more and more are coming. And so for that reason, again, I've warned about this, but it does scare me a lot. Even though it has faced a decent correction, I fear it could face more. Just because I mean, when you see that many numbers coming out, it's worrisome. And as someone that, I don't have any R9s, if you ask me what R9 would I want to buy, there's no way I'd want to buy this one. I'd much rather go after the Voetbal or, maybe even a Mundi Chromo of some sort. Like, it terrifies me. And so I just want to throw that out there. The good, the bad, I will talk about it nonetheless. And yeah, that scares me a lot. So be wary is the way I'd put it. I've just seen too many in these weeklies to stay silent at this point. So it is what it is. Aquarela, this is a blue Pele in a BVG 6.5. We'll take a look at that, and we'll see here that there was a 7.5 that sold for $21,000. That was a pretty recent comp. We also have a 4.5 going for $3,000, a 5 that went for $10,000 in January. So yeah, I guess, relatively that's down a little bit. If there was a BVG 5 in January going for that. Now, one thing I did want to talk about, and I think that this is relevant, this sale was on Golden's site, and Golden, it was talked about in the Vintage Soccer Discord. Link will be down below, by the way. There are a few Discords down there. Always check them out. But Golden tends to apparently have their photos be really light and look really good, especially on vintage cards. So I'll show you the differences, basically. This 7.5 just looks incredibly white. Like, look at that. And part of where you can tell is look at the BVG holder. I mean, the edges look like crispy white in so many places. And when you hold these, they don't look white. So that there's sort of something going on with the contrast, or with how they're sort of, I don't want to say manipulating, but how they take the photo, right? And how they present it afterwards. While comparatively with PWCC, you look at this one, like, look at the edges. That's sort of more what they're supposed to look like. Sort of bland. The Pele itself looks, like a normal sort of papery color. This one looks like it just got bleached along with the slab itself, if it's going to load for me. That's just, I don't know. I think with modern cards, this doesn't matter as much, but with older cards, it's pretty dishonest, I would say. And I'm not sure if it's intentional or not, but just something to throw out there that if you are buying off of eye appeal, I love the theory behind it, but you also can get fooled if, the sites have variances in how they, take photos or display them on their website. So just something to be interested in looking into. Generally, a pretty low sale there for that, but the Aquarellas have been doing pretty good and staying pretty strong. So, one bad sale isn't the end of the world. And then for what tops this auction, we have a 2022 1/1 Kylian Mbappe on-card auto, going for $9,600. So pretty good price there. Obviously, only copy ever made. Can't really comp it. But there are obviously other 1/1s in the set, so you sort of have to weigh out where you think those stand. This Mbappe, would have loved to have seen what this would have went for had he won and, had sort of another narrative around it and having his first year of on-card items with National Treasures and going into a World Cup win. Would have been crazy. Nonetheless, still a really good tournament. I don't know if people talk about it, but they definitely should. I guess once he takes the World Cup scoring record and is far and away number 1, then maybe it'll matter and, that'll be more into the lore. But nonetheless, really good sales here. Some high prices nonetheless, but they were some big cards. The top 3... I think are good cards, but I don't think they're the big cards. I think, a PSA 4, the Quigle's pretty big. The Bloomer's huge. The pre-war was just massive this week, which was really fun to see. And, even some good pre-modern sales, and Messi was really strong. Just generally, looked pretty good. You know, I try to find when things are dropping just as much as I try to find when things are falling. And this week it seemed like a lot of things were going up. And, you know, for being middle of the summer, National Week, soccer on PWCC, just another weekly, you would think that that wouldn't be the case yet somehow it was. But yeah, that's going to be it for me today. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, make sure to leave a like. I'd appreciate it greatly. Anything you saw in the auction that piqued your interest, would love to hear your thoughts down below in a comment. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as I go live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you have a wonderful day, and peace.